Hi, welcome to Social with Christine Gritmon from Christine Gritmon Inc. This will be a weekly Facebook Live show where we talk about stuff that's going on in the social media world. I do social media for small business in Rockland County, New York. And I'm going to have a guest every week, someone who's involved in the social media sphere. And this week's guest is Brian. And I'm sorry, Brian, please pronounce your last name for me.
Teej.
Brian Teej from LinkedIn. And he was kind enough to come speak to the Rockland Business Association Emerging Professionals Group a couple days ago about LinkedIn. And so certainly I had to try to get him on the show. Thank you so much, Brian, for making time for this today.
Oh, my pleasure.
So the first thing I want to talk about is, so you've been with LinkedIn for 10 years. And I've been on LinkedIn for probably about as long. I was a pretty early adopter on LinkedIn. And I've seen it change from kind of a more static place to sort of park your resume and easily keep in touch with people you've worked with before, to really evolving to be more social, to be more active. And you've clearly been there during that evolution. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on how it evolved, why it evolved, any insights from that evolution.
Well, I think, for the most part, LinkedIn in many ways for many people started out as a online Rolodex. Mm-hmm. And for those of us that were active networkers and or understood the technology a little bit more naturally, it was easy to kind of swim into it and see the natural scale increase or leverage increase to maintain our professional contacts. But I think most people lack that frame of reference or maybe investing the time in understanding how it would impact them individually as professionals. Mm-hmm. Or they may have just figured that, there wasn't that much of an evolution from maybe an online resume database. If you think about like the monsters or career builders of the world. Mm-hmm. And so there was a small loyal contingent of people that really actively use LinkedIn. And you think about the advent of other technologies. Little known fact, LinkedIn's a little bit older than Facebook. So everyone thinks that we're always copying Facebook, but they've borrowed some features from us along the way too. And I think with the proliferation of technologies like Facebook, a lot more people got comfortable using the technologies. And Facebook has done a phenomenal job of educating a ton of people on how to use these technologies, use it effectively, and pushing the envelope into what's new. And also even, I hate to say it, really pushing people into leveraging some of these technologies, because you couldn't use certain things unless you did it the way they wanted you to, right? Because they would block you or stop you or whatever else. And so it kind of dragged a lot of people into these new technologies against their will in some cases. And LinkedIn learned from what Facebook was doing, and others like Twitter. And if you think about Instagram and such. And we really wanted to hone in on developing and connecting the world's professionals to make them more productive and successful, which is our mission statement. Everything that we do at LinkedIn is to continuously drive towards that, to add value to the individual and to our individual members. So I think the technology, that growth trajectory over the years has kind of kept in pace with the general evolutions of technology, but more importantly, the adoption of these type of technologies by the individuals. So I think in some cases, the individuals caught up finally to the technology to allow for the proliferation of the adoption of them, if that makes sense.
It does. As both someone who works at LinkedIn yourself and also a user, what do you think are kind of key moments in that shift towards being a more active platform? Like I used to go on LinkedIn when I was looking for a job, basically, and I think a lot of people were like that. They didn't really touch it, and now you really got to touch your LinkedIn every day. So what do you think are some key moments in that evolution as it happened towards being a more active tool?
Well, first, again, people who understand networking know that you should not be looking to feed your network when you need it. You need to feed your network so it's healthy and alive all the time, because if you ignore your network and when you do finally need it, it won't actually be there when you need it.
When did they start enabling posts? Because posts weren't always such a thing on LinkedIn.
Well, so the difference between a post, so putting a status update and saying, "Hey, I'm going to the RBA session on Wednesday to present." That's a post to me, or sharing an article.
That wasn't always a thing on LinkedIn.
No, it was more. It was there for a long time, longer than any one of us could probably remember. But I think the real watershed moment was the ability to do long form posts, the ability to actually essentially write a blog on LinkedIn. I think that was the seminal moment in inviting the influencers. I think it's about 3 years ago now, when you had all these really heavy duty business leaders and just general thought leaders, right? Because it's not just business leaders. There's philosophical leaders, healthy living leaders, religious leaders that are all there sharing some information on LinkedIn in this long form environment. Kind of showed people what was possible when you have a built-in audience, right? For any bloggers out there, how hard it is to attract the audience to your destination. For anyone who has a website, right? But when you are going to fish where the fish are, right? It's a lot easier. Why do you publish on using Facebook Live? Because there's 1.5 billion people on Facebook already organically there. Or instead of creating your own YouTube channel that no one knows about, right? It increases your probability of success. So once we open the gates to everyone else to create their own content, you really had this sincere, personalized engagement platform that gave individuals a platform to really attract attention to their skills and thought leadership in a way that had not been professionally possible before.
And thought leadership, you said right there, is a really key word here, because I feel like that's one of the huge benefits to LinkedIn now. That's a real point of difference that they've developed very well. The fact that if you really want to become a thought leader in your industry, you've got to start publishing on LinkedIn. And they've really sort of formalized it in a way, because they have, and forgive me, I forget what the term is called, but they have kind of influencers more formalized on LinkedIn. They're labeled as such. You're invited.
That is the appropriate term. They are influencers, and you'll find that our marketing folks are really clever in inserting the word into almost anything that we need to here at LinkedIn.
So how are they chosen and labeled as such? Is there specifically an influencer team that decides where that threshold is?
There is, and it's almost like the formula to Coca-Cola. You don't get to know it; you just get to enjoy it.
Kind of like the Facebook algorithm, really. It's like they're never going to lay it out for you. You just have to figure it out. So what would you say are good ways to get on that list?
Well, I don't have any insider information.
Yeah, you're not mixing the Coca-Cola, but the fact is, as someone who's very familiar with the product, almost like someone at Facebook explaining the algorithm, they don't have the exact details, but you have a more educated point of view than most. So what do you think are some things that tend to lead there?
So first of all, you actually have to use the publishing platform. Right? You have to contribute and author articles on a fairly frequent basis.
And authoring them within the platform, not just linking to a blog. So even if you are writing the same content in your own blog on your own homepage, copy and paste it into the LinkedIn format as well. Is that a good rule of thumb?
Oh, totally. Yep. Yeah. Just linking to your Medium post is one thing. That's great. Of course, you definitely want to share those with your networks, but it's going to be picked up and indexed differently if it's actually published on the platform. And it's not to say that there's many pieces of content that are formatted differently for the audiences that may be appropriate on the different venues that they may distribute to, right? Because you may adopt something for a print version from a digital version or a TV version or a radio version there, but it's still the same underlying content.
What type of content tends to do best towards thought leadership on LinkedIn?
Oh, it could be something such as a sincere rebuttal to a current event. A few years ago, there was that interesting New York Times article talking about the Amazon work environment. And there was an individual engineer at Amazon that went ahead on their own. They were not tapped by PR or anything else from Amazon. A real Amazon employee, decided to take to LinkedIn to create a response to that article. And that particular blog post from that individual engineer had well over 1 million hits.
Wow.
Right?
How did people find that article?
It got picked up by individuals, and they would say, wow, look at this response. And then they'd reshare it with their network. And they're, again, because it was extremely relevant to a article that was put out there that, the New York Times, a well-respected publication, a lot of people read. And therefore, it had a very wide audience. And then it's created a lot of attention. So here's that one case where this person who really had no social media huge presence, they weren't an active blogger, they weren't someone you would say is an influencer, but this person had a monumental influence on that conversation. Mm-hmm. And where else would that have been possible? And I'm sure the PR folks, they couldn't have done a better job in engaging that post.
Because it looks organic. Because it was organic, as far as we know. Yeah. Speaking of organic, though, I'm wondering kind of what, given that LinkedIn has positioned itself as very much, building thought leadership and credibility and joining those conversations in a way that helps with that, helps bolster that. Is there kind of a LinkedIn algorithm going on? Like if you use certain keywords and things like that, like are you more likely to be found and picked up and viewed by people who maybe aren't viewing you already because they're not in your network?
I would say that you need to use the appropriate hashtags. Those hashtags are searchable on LinkedIn now.
I think a lot of people don't realize that hashtags are searchable on LinkedIn. There were two moments in your presentation the other day where I was like, I'm a professional in this. How do I not know this? And one of them was that you can use hashtags on LinkedIn, which you said has been a thing for at least a year. And the other was I had been increasingly frustrated by how hard it's been to find and access groups on the LinkedIn app for mobile and also on the revitalized desktop version. Mm-hmm. And then I saw your screen and I was like, oh, it's a separate app now. I had no idea, so it's kind of, there's all these things people don't know.
Well, it's constantly changing too.
Yeah.
Early on, years ago, there was this whole crop of consultants and whatnot that would call themselves LinkedIn experts. Mm-hmm. And people would refer to me as a LinkedIn expert, and I would always correct them that I work at LinkedIn. I eat, drink, and sleep social media 70 to 80 hours a week, and I wouldn't dare call myself an expert because something is always changing, and I'm constantly learning. And so I've got a lot of hypotheses based on educated guesses on how things should work and why they work the way they do.
I would love to hear your educated guesses.
Yeah, but they change so often. And for me, once that change happens, I need enough experience with it to see how the audiences engage with it so that I can advise on that topic. Mm-hmm. But I absent real world experience, it's kind of hard. It's just a guess.
To that point, I know LinkedIn already this year in 2017 has done massive changes, and they've been rolling out kind of on a staggered basis. I know I think in January I read about the new profile, and I didn't get the new profile till sometime in March. And so thankfully I had read the article sort of going through some of the changes to the new profile, because I found myself sitting with a client working on her LinkedIn presence and encountering the new profile in the wild for the first time. So thank goodness it was a friend, because she was patient with me where I was like, now where is that now? And I know how you used to be able to do this, and sorry. So what is the best way to figure out these changes? Is there, because I know Facebook, every time it introduces a new function or shift or new ad type or anything, it won't get out of your face with the little pop-ups of like, let me give you a tour of this new feature. Hey, did you see this new thing? And LinkedIn doesn't do that because LinkedIn is a little less pop-up bubbly. But what is a good way to figure out how to navigate these new changes on LinkedIn?
We do the pop-ups from time to time. We have an internal technology called Hopscotch
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a cute name. Think about the childhood game of popping, throwing the rock out there and hopping along to your next destination. So it does just that with the little pop-ups. But also the help feature in the learning section will have how-to videos on the new feature sets.
Okay.
They're very well done. And it's surprising to me how many people ask questions about how to use certain LinkedIn features, and they just never went to the help section and just
They're answered right there. If you have a question, go to help. But I mean, here I am. I'm one of those people who didn't. So
it works super well. I mean, I support global clients here at LinkedIn, and sometimes if a client will ask me a question I don't know, I'll go to the search, look it up, and it's there like 99.9% of the time.
Yep.
And so then, next time the client asks me, of course, I've now internalized that information, but I have not normally been a big fan of various online help functions in past technologies, but I can tell you the LinkedIn one for someone who's been in technology for over 20 years is exceptionally well done.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. So go to the help section when in doubt. In fact, I'm going to do that right after this broadcast. I'm going to get my little virtual tour of the new things on LinkedIn. Speaking of new things on LinkedIn, and as I mentioned before, Groups is now on desktop on a whole separate little pull down where the apps are, and being an app on mobile. And there were a lot of things there. Would you be able to tell us about a few of those features? I know there's training, and
so the LinkedIn Learning section
is for recruiters, right? Is that the only certification available at the moment?
That's the only one that I'm working through right now. Is the recruiter certification. I believe Sales Navigator also has a certification available.
Oh.
I don't think there's any general LinkedIn.com certification available at this point.
Okay, I'll have to see if there's a Sales Navigator one. And then there's also more general training programs, right? Not necessarily on LinkedIn.
Correct. So if you go into the learning section, so LinkedIn Learning, which is the renaming of lynda.com, which was a company that LinkedIn had acquired last year, there's really a tutorial on almost just about anything you could professionally want to learn. And if you look in the new LinkedIn interface, it will show you courses. When you're looking at someone, it will show you coursework or suggested coursework to obtain the skills similar to the person you're looking at.
Ooh. I got to get some of those on my profile then. I didn't realize that. So if I do some of these certifications, not certifications, sorry, but if I do some of these classes, these virtual classes, that will show up on my profile and kind of be in the face of anyone who goes to look at my profile?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. So go take a look at some different folks on LinkedIn, and you'll see in that right-hand rail on the desktop suggested coursework to obtain similar skills as that person.
That is cool. All right, I have to check that out, definitely. You mentioned that there's maybe a certification on Sales Navigator. I wanted to talk a little bit about the different paid versions of LinkedIn and who they're for and who they're worth it for, and basically what you can do that you can't do in regular LinkedIn, and the difference between them. Because there's Sales Navigator and then there's the other one, right? I forget what that is. Sorry.
Yeah, so LinkedIn has, I would say, it's 5 primary revenue streams. You've got our talent acquisition business, which has a suite of products, the flagship of which is LinkedIn Recruiter, which is a software as a service designed for corporate recruiters. Well, and anyone who's a professional recruiter. It could also be third-party headhunters, independent consultants, things of that nature. Recruiter can very well be an amazing platform. You also have Sales Navigator, which is designed for sales professionals. Anyone who's looking to make money on LinkedIn and market their products and services, perfect platform. You also have our Marketing Solutions Group. So the Marketing Solutions Group will leverage the LinkedIn membership data and create unique ways to market to those individuals. And so the individual version of that is displayed through Campaign Manager, so that if you want to grow your consulting business, you can determine what type of people you believe are most likely to buy your services, and you can market directly to them using our sponsored updates and display media.
And Marketing Solutions just had a big revamp, right?
They did have just a big revamp, and there's a whole host of new products coming out. The two biggest changes this year is the ability to upload your CRM data.
Which is huge. You can do that on Facebook, and it's fantastic. I've certainly used that to target ads for clients. Can you make lookalike audiences with that on LinkedIn?
Yeah, so you can do, it'll do lookalike. It'll also expand, and we can also now do retargeting.
Explain that. Retargeting.
So that if someone, we can place a pixel on your website, and so anyone who's coming to view your website essentially would go into this basket, and then after they visited your website, later on we can retarget them on LinkedIn and beyond based on that.
That is fantastic, and that's a huge, huge change. And you said that there's some more that's going to be kind of developed for marketing tools. And of course, this is what I'm interested in, the marketing tools. So can you tell us a little bit more about what is it called again? I'm sorry, marketing manager,
campaign manager.
Okay. No, but the marketing tool, the paid version, there's Sales Navigator, there's the Recruiter one, and then there's
Campaign Manager is really the paid version. It's just that's the interface in which marketers will interact with it in a self-serve environment.
Okay. So if you could tell me a little bit more about what they're developing for that and what they're hoping it becomes, and
well, I mean, eventually we do have the largest professional network on the planet, right? There is no better platform for business-to-business marketing than LinkedIn. We've got the best ability to target. We have the largest audience around the globe. And so I think anything that we'll continue to develop the tools and platforms to tie it all together to be as efficient as possible for the wide variety of people that advertise on LinkedIn, from individual consultants up to Fortune 500 companies and everyone in between.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned the other day about videos becoming more of a thing on LinkedIn.
Yep, you're going to start to see some tests of LinkedIn native video. So instead of uploading your YouTube video, there's going to be a LinkedIn video player, and then obviously you'll have the benefit of the analytics and metrics that only LinkedIn can uniquely provide in a B2B environment associated with that engagement. So
will the link in terms of what's active now, can anyone upload video to LinkedIn now, or is it just for company pages, or what?
No, it's still in test phase, so very limited rollout. And today you can obviously upload a YouTube video, things of that nature, other platforms, but not native LinkedIn. Okay, so nobody can yet? No, well, very select, small group.
Can you for ads?
Pardon me?
Can you do video ads on LinkedIn yet?
You always have been able to, as long as they were spun up from a third party.
Oh, from a third party. Okay. Any idea when the ability to do LinkedIn native ads is going to be rolling out broadly, or is it a matter of seeing how the testing goes?
I will. Yeah, it's always the technical response of soon.
Yeah. It's in QA. Yeah.
Soon.
Yeah, soon. Is there anything else that you're allowed to tell us about things that LinkedIn is planning on rolling out? Because given the scale of the shifts they've already made this year on various fronts, it feels like it's building towards something bigger. You know what I mean?
It's right. I mean, there's everything is constantly evolving, right? No one ever thought about stories until Snapchat came up with them, right? And then Insta comes along and goes ahead.
Can't get away from stories,
right? I mean, it's a game of cat and mouse across these platforms to gather attention and engagement. And so, LinkedIn, very cleverly, I believe, in my opinion, has always stayed focused on the professional experience. Mm-hmm. Right? And so everything that we're going to do is going to continue to optimize around that experience and enhancing the professional brand for our members. And next week, we're going to be launching our quarterly update for product release for our talent business.
Mhm.
We've now become a lot more strict in how we release our feature sets to keep our clients better informed of these changes. And so there's a whole host of new feature sets for our Talent Solutions customers being released next week, which is really exciting.
All right, so anyone who's using the Talent Solutions features on LinkedIn, definitely check that out. Keep us all informed.
Look for your email and webinar announcement on Monday to learn more.
There you go. Nice. Email and webinar announcement on Monday. Make sure you're getting that. Just to roll it back a bit, do you have any quick kind of, as a user more than an employee, do you have any quick do's and don'ts about how to use LinkedIn most effectively?
Well, number one, engage people the way you want to be engaged, right? We're always much more thoughtful in our response when people engage us, when they've done a little bit of research and they know that it's been meant for you. Think about the millions of messages you get every day in spam email or even in your work email and such that that person just sent you a form letter.
Yeah.
What do? You instantly, it's gone. You don't even have to think about it consciously or subconsciously. You blast it from your mind because it's just noise. Yet so many professionals will continue to send out those messages because it's easier for them.
Yeah, there's definitely some bots that are picking up on previous jobs of mine and offering me jobs like that. And I'm like, I'm 2 careers away from back when I did that. And I own a company now. No.
Well, and that's it, right? And so making sure that if you're going to reach out to people, if it's an invitation to connect or an in-mail, be thoughtful. Do your research. Send out less with more value, and you'll get a much higher response rate from your engagement. If you want to feel good because you've done 1,000 activities today, even though none of them are fruitful or productive, well, then you've got a different KPI or measurement for success than I do. I want to do less, but I want to impact more.
What are some ways people can be more easily found by the right people on LinkedIn?
Be thoughtful in how you write your profile. As I had shared the other day, I focus on success stories. What makes you great at what you do? And summarize it in a brief story. I think that's probably the number one way of doing it. Because responsibilities, everyone has responsibilities, and that type of language kind of washes together, right? It's really hard to differentiate yourself amongst any knowledge worker today. Anyone who works primarily through a computer can list out 95% of their responsibilities, and it's going to be very similar.
Mm-hmm. How many different ways can you write the word managed? I managed this, I managed that.
Yeah, and when you're using words and nomenclature like that, it's actually managing you.
Yeah. Okay. Is there anything else you'd like us to know about what's going on at LinkedIn?
Just, super excited for the integrations under the new ownership of Microsoft, what that's going to present to our, combined audience of Microsoft Office users and LinkedIn members. I think it's just going to be a whole bunch of goodness as those integrations come online and the value that it adds and the streamlining of the process and delivery of knowledge for people that use those platforms. And, decreasing missed opportunities. Think about how often we missed some really pertinent information on someone because we were too lazy to go look up their LinkedIn profile before a meeting. And we could have really short-tracked a lot of the trust building that could have occurred in a meeting or in a discovery meeting. But we just didn't take the time to do the research. So maybe some of those integrations will help automate some of those discoveries for us.
I remember something I wanted to ask you, actually. So Facebook has recently sort of taken on Slack and things like that by creating, I forget what it's called, but basically Facebook for work. Yeah. So does LinkedIn have any plans to enter that fray? I mean, I would think it would be a far more natural platform for it than Facebook.
Yeah, not that I'm aware of. But I'm sure someone reserves the right to enter that space here at LinkedIn somewhere.
at LinkedIn, do you guys use Slack or the Facebook version or the Microsoft Office tools that do that or anything like that at the moment? I'm sure you're going to be moving to the Microsoft Office tools, but
yeah, there are groups within that use the Microsoft platform for messaging. Slack is also in use here at LinkedIn in different groups. And obviously, we use the LinkedIn platform, the messaging that we have available there as well.
Yeah, because I'm eager to see how that develops.
Yeah, I mean, messaging is obviously huge, and I think that messaging in itself is not necessarily the killer app, but it's the integration of other data elements within that process.
Everything is moving towards messaging. It's getting I never give thought to WhatsApp because that's more in greater use internationally than it is here. But I've heard a lot of experts say if you want to know where social media here is headed, look at things like WhatsApp because there's such a heavy penetration there that it's informing everything. Facebook is revamping Messenger. There's bots now getting involved in everything. So yeah, I'm eager to see what LinkedIn does with that, but we'll see.
Yeah, that's probably the next big frontier for all the big technology companies and the ones that are not yet known, which I'm sure there's a whole host of smart startups looking to come up with the next version that wows us all.
Yeah. All right. And last but not least, I saw for a split second when you stood up for a second earlier that you have a great shirt on. Could we get a view of that?
Oh, my
beautiful. Yeah. Oh my God, I want one of those. All right. Well, thank you so much, Brian. This was great having you on, and it was great hearing you speak the other day. And thank you so much.
Thank you, and have a great weekend, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.